Welcome everyone to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients podcast. I'm your host, Chris Brodhead. Today's guest is part of our Business Owner series and will offer insights into the needs, wants, and desires of this highly sought after client demographic. Today, we have an incredible business owner, Chris Dreyer. Chris, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah. Hey, first, thanks for having me on the show. I
Sure.
am a serial entrepreneur, probably like many on this podcast. I have been hustling since a very young age. Even before I went to college, mom and dad kind of forced my hand to go to college, but I told them I was going to own my own business. But I did that. And, still went through that whole song and dance. But yeah, I own rankings.io. We've been the Inc. 5000 fastest growing list for 7 years in a row. We'll definitely make it for an eighth next year. Probably pretty well on that list too next year. But that's what I do: digital marketing for personal injury lawyers.
Nice. What aspects of digital marketing do you all focus on?
Search, SEO,
Search.
Google Ads, design. That's it.
Yeah.
Very, very
Nice.
narrow.
Nice. So yeah, well, I definitely want to dig into that. So can you talk about your kind of genesis as an entrepreneur? It sounds like from a very early age you knew that the entrepreneur life was an eventuality, not an if, it was a win. Can you talk about how you got into it, how you figured stuff out?
Yeah, I'll try to. I can give you the condensed or the long version. I knew that I was an entrepreneur at a very early age. I was always trying to cook up some business. I didn't have a paper route. Of course, if they had one in my city, I would have definitely had that career path. But my mom always had these side gigs. She was a cook, so she had like the flea market stuff. Then she would go clean offices and buildings, and like I was always doing that at a young age, and I just thought that's what you did. Like I didn't know that I was like on this kind of entrepreneurial path, and she was very successful at that. Probably made more money than her core job. My dad was a mail carrier. So we were definitely what I would call middle class. I wasn't without, but I had an uncle that was very, very wealthy. Multiple exits, go to vacation there, and I saw what was possible. So that gave me like the first, like, oh, this is possible. Like, this guy's my dad's brother, right? It's my dad's super intelligent, like state winner in like math competitions and things like that. And I went to college. I was a partier. I didn't know what I was going to do. Honestly, I was a big social look. I was a partier. I got through with high grades,
Cheers.
but I don't know. Yeah. And I got a job as a history education teacher. I had a history education degree, and I was a detention room teacher because if I did that career path for 1 year and then I was a teacher the second year, then I would be a 2-year history teacher. It's kind of how it worked in Southern Illinois. My first year, before I even got into digital marketing, I bought a triplex. And so I had property. I was a landlord. I was the whole maintenance guy. And then I convinced the seller to sell another one to me, owner financing. So I had 6 units. I've got about 86 now today. I had 6, many years ago. But I did everything, right? Unlocked the door, screened the tenants, did everything. But my first year teaching, I had all this downtime in the detention room, and most people would just cruise sports and play games or whatever. But I typed in how to make money online. I found this digital marketing course. It was Ed Dale's course. And I started doing affiliate marketing. And by the second year of teaching, I was making about 4 times the amount in affiliate marketing compared to teaching. So I quit. I moved to Florida, and then you can jump in anytime. I had some roommates. I had one mentor that was teaching me digital marketing, and all of us worked from home. There was like 4 of us in this house, like 2 poker players. I'm not even sure what the other guy did really, and myself. And I'll tell you, like that first week, I cashed out my teacher's retirement and I threw one of the biggest parties in our apartment complex. The reason I bring this up is because I met a lot of individuals that were also entrepreneurs there and kind of had a social scene that I transferred. But I just did the affiliate marketing, eat what you kill. Love that. No cap on the salary. I did that for several years. And then 2011, that first Penguin algorithm hit. It took my affiliate income from, let's say, 16 to 20 grand a month to 2. And I wasn't saving money, as you could imagine from my past. And so I had to get a job, and I went to Craigslist because that's where you went back in the day. And I typed in SEO, and I shot off my resume so much the Craigslist filter wouldn't let me apply anymore. But I got 3 job interviews, and I got 3 offers. And most people would say, well, which one did you take? Well, I took all 3 because I had an affiliate team in the Philippines. They were all remote. This is before Zoom was like the best technology for connection. So I guess I took that, that overhired thing that's kind of movement that's going right now. I had that when I started, and it was 3 agencies. So I was the best employee, and I say that like confidently because I had a whole team behind me. It wasn't like Chris Dreyer could do himself. I had this team, and I learned kind of the ins and outs of the agency space, and then about a year doing that, started my own. And there's a lot of little funny things in between there, but I'll pass the baton back to you.
Man, that's a wild condensed ride you just took us on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So were the 3 jobs, were they all remote, or were you like,
Yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that is you were ahead of the curve. I have friends, for the last since COVID have been taking multiple remote jobs, but you're ahead of your time, my friend.
Yeah, I heard on My First Million podcast they were talking about, oh, there's a lack of integrity of taking on multiple. Like, why? You're paying me to do this job. I'm doing it above and beyond. Like, what do you care? I'm doing the job.
Yeah. Yeah, those people don't know what they're talking about. So, okay, you were doing affiliate marketing. Google destroyed that for some unknown reason. Why did you just go dive headfirst into SEO?
I've always had a passion for it, and I could see like my contribution directly turn into revenue. Also, on the affiliate side, there was additional hurdles of driving traffic to, through an affiliate link. If I was doing drop shipping, or that would probably be the next level. I would have and I didn't have the capital to deploy. Right, I was blowing my money. I had a real ability to rank sites. I ranked number 1 for double chin for like 5 years. Alcohol withdrawal. I ranked number 1 for stained concrete. I had a generator site during all the hurricanes. I think it was Katrina. I'm not sure which one. Completely sold out of every generator on Amazon. Did really well with Google AdSense. The main reason, like what happened in during the Penguin algorithm is like I was basically ranking sites with just a few sources of referring domains, like eZine articles and a couple other sites. And when that lost favor, that was like a main leverage point. And I had to change kind of the quality of my link building acquisition tactics.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. So, I mean, you had this entrepreneurial desire and ability, clearly. How did digital marketing show up on your radar?
It was that affiliate marketing course, and that's
But
how it
how
showed
did
up.
you, like, you just saw an ad for it, or like how did digital marketing become
I
the
legit
path?
typed in how to make money online and took a digital marketing course. That's honest to God what I took. I found Ed Dale's course.
Yeah.
When I started, there wasn't the courses and education paths for this field like there are today. You go to Udemy or you Google something right now, you're going to find hundreds of courses and paths. Back then, it was like, who's the guy that's going to teach you? This is like one of the only courses, and there was Warrior Forum, the Keyword Academy Forum, and a couple others, and that's it. And so we all kind of congregated. Had, I guess you could call it a mastermind. I was in a mastermind back then.
Hmm. Nice. And then, so you took the course and then you found a mentor. How did you one know that you needed to find a mentor, and then two, how did you actually find the mentor?
Yeah, and this is so I've got a lot of side quest like things here. I I used to be a competitive collectible card game player, so now everyone here comes the comments of instant nerd, huge nerd. So you think like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon cards. There was one
Hmm.
called Legend of Five Rings. I played it in college, had a lot of fun. It's very math oriented, and I ended up winning. They were called Kotais. I won the equivalent of like a state championship. I won four of those, and so I was like a top ranked player. And all the top players kind of had their own mastermind for this game. One of the players, his name was Ryan Carter. Um, he's a big entrepreneur right now as well. He's married to uh, a pro poker player, Poker Stars. But so it was a mentor that was doing digital marketing, but also a friend. And that's who kind of we connected. We started helping each other out. His path took him to poker, and people think of poker in the Chris Moneymaker days on TV, but he was different. Ryan got a coach and a mentor. They reviewed hand history. He treated it like a job and not like a hobby, and reviewed hand sessions where lost hands, not just the winning hands, and that's how I found the mentor for digital marketing.
Okay, so your mentor was um, a card player as well.
Yeah, he was a top collectible card player in this Legend of Five Rings game. So we were buddies. He started doing digital marketing at a very high level, not your casual gamers. To be at the top of the top, there's a different level of obsession and focus that comes from that on all these aspects, even on the entrepreneur side. At one point, he made a decision to not continue digital marketing, and he continued the poker route and was very, very
Mm.
successful.
Hmm.
Where I continued on the path of digital marketing. Now, I did briefly play some poker, and I was really, I did well there. But my path's always been on digital marketing.
Yeah, better odds.
Yeah. Well, both very successful paths. Yeah. So one's was a little bit more capital intensive out of the gate than the other. So yeah, both the other issue though too was in the United States, I think it's still illegal to do online poker, except for a few states. I don't know how
Hmm.
DraftKings and some of these other sites work, but that's another big issue. Now he lived in Canada for many years to get around that, but that's also a hurdle, a logistical hurdle.
Hmm. Got it. Was he a unpaid mentor? Did he
Oh
have
yeah, yeah,
a piece of the
unpaid.
action? Okay.
Yeah, unpaid. We both kind of he was the brains and really knew he was very effective when I started, right? So I was really learning from him. And then at one point we were about equal. And then right when we are about equal, he kind of changed his career path.
He's like, now that I've given you this, my work here is done.
Yeah. Well, our days has changed, right? My days went from writing content and doing SEO and digital marketing, and his went to just playing poker and reviewing hand history.
Got it. So, tell me about your journey to actually finding clients, and then to niching up, if you will?
Yeah. So it's a few things I did when I was working at the agencies. I had many of the clients write a LinkedIn recommendation on behalf of the company. Chris is an excellent account manager, SEO specialist, whatever. I had like 70 of those. I think
Mm,
I've got a ton of LinkedIn recommendations, like maybe 80 something. Those were my social proof out of the gate. Now, integrity wise, I never solicited any of the clients that I worked with. And right, I hunted for new business, but I used it for social proof. The other thing too is one of the agencies about 3 years in, it went under. I don't know what happened. 3 years later, they hired the wrong people or didn't, whatever happened, it went under. So then there was no issue with the solicitation. And I did pick a couple clients up that I used to work with in the past. In the beginning, I didn't have a ton of capital. So I did a lot of belly to belly networking. So I would meet people for breakfast and lunch, get to know them. And that at the very beginning, that's how got a source of leads. That and social, just anything that I could do for free, very low capital work, just more my time.
and to set up these belly to belly meetings, email, call, text,
Hmm.
social media connection, how were you setting these up?
There was a period of time on LinkedIn where you could message your entire connection base. Now that is no longer does exist. So that's the equivalent of spam your TAM, spam your total addressable market. That's what I did. I sent a message out and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Anybody interested in meeting?" Blah blah. And I got a handful of meetings, and one or two of them even today still, maybe they don't send me a client every year, but in some capacity have helped my business grow still to this day.
Nice. And at what point did you realize the importance of niching or finding a niche?
Well, I knew out of the gate I wanted to niche into legal. It's been around for a long time. I didn't want to compete after everyone. I wanted to have at least some type of target. It took about 5 or 6 years before I really focused on personal injury law firms. I think if you're not in this industry and you think of criminal defense and family law attorneys and business law, and you might see the billboards going into a city, but you don't really value it the same as now. Like about 5 or 6 years in, I found over 70% of my revenue was from less than 50% of my clientele, and that was personal injury law firms.
Mhm. Mm.
And so I made the decision to just really focus on them. Now, for a period of time, I only accepted clients in the PI space. So I've got a personal injury podcast. We have a personal injury conference. David Spades Entertainment, Michael Phelps is a keynote. Top PI attorneys in the country, Morgan and Morgan, Shannara. Um, so I really focused on a lot of my efforts on the PI, with the personal injury podcast, the conference. Um, but now we do work with other areas of law. But yeah, I found it directly in the data.
Mhm. Wow. So the podcast, I do you interview PI injuries?
Personal injury
Um,
attorneys, yes.
personal injury
Mhm.
attorneys? Okay, cool. And that helps one to make contact or I'm sorry, to make content and two to establish a relationship with them.
There's so much of a podcast. I get a lot of flack for this, but I'll get invited to speak at a conference, and I'll just say I turned down 99%. You're like, why? I've always been told that speaking's great for business. Well, my podcast gets 2,000 downloads a week, minimum. So most of the time, you go to these conferences, and there's 100 or 200 people out in the crowd. Mine is the equivalent of a keynote presentation every week from my home that I own and control the messaging, the content entirely. Puts me as the authority. I don't have to go travel somewhere and fly there and blow a whole day of preparing, and then you speak for an hour and then you fly back. It basically kills 3 days. It's just not worth my time. And that's, so that, what else does the podcast do? It creates social content. So it can power that side of the flywheel. It also is that many people undervalue this, but it's a feedback loop. So I get to ask clients or prospects about their pains. And we know that if you can solve pain and provide value, it's worth money. So
Hmm.
every single week, I'm talking to personal injury firms to identify what their real struggles are. And it just helps me be better informed on all aspects of that business. So it's a great feedback loop. It helps from a prospecting perspective. If I cold email someone, that doesn't carry a lot of weight. But if I cold invitation, invite them to the podcast, I'm providing value first, and it gets them in my ecosystem. So there's a lot of huge benefits that a podcast has that most people don't really consider.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. We we produce podcasts for clients, and then design the podcast around whoever their ideal customer is, and then they interview their ideal customer, and just like you said, they get to ask these direct questions and establish a relationship. It's we're doing it right now to some extent. This is the most fun form of selling that I've ever discovered. It's we just get to have a fun conversation that high value content is the outcome of.
Mhm.
um, awesome, awesome. So, can you talk about like why was it valuable to start a conference? Why was that important?
Anytime where you can control the distribution, it's an advantage from a leverage perspective. And so if I control a community on my podcast or your social media, it's very powerful, right? It's the conferences first, it opens you up to a new revenue stream, right? You got sponsors, so you got kind of peers and other people in this industry, so that will give you money on the front end, at least to pay for the conference for the most part. I'll still probably lose money on the front end, but it just provides you a different outlet from an authority perspective and distribution. So a lot of times people will say, well, they'll think about their marketing strategy, their go-to-market strategy, whatever you want to call it, and they'll go identify the biggest conferences in their space. So first you're going to pay for an overpriced booth or sponsorship. You're going to pay $10,000 for the friggin' Wi-Fi or a, you know, room key. Like, get out of here. Like, I'm gonna put $10,000 on a room key. You know, you're gonna have a speaking engagement, even if you're the keynote. It's the epitome of this. Most of the time, you're not getting paid for it. Most of the time, it's pay to play. And most industries have moved to that model. A lot of them have breakout sessions or multiple things going on at the same time. So why did I do it? It's like, well, we went to 29 conferences in 2023, and just most of them weren't what we would say good. They weren't good enough. Like I have a certain standard. There's some that they're great, but most of them weren't good enough. We just thought there was an opportunity. There wasn't one dedicated just to personal injury attorneys. I knew through the podcast and my relationships that I could get the best of the best speakers. And that's why we did it. Ultimately, is to control the distribution, the authority, and it also opens up a new revenue line.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome. So, it sounds like you predominantly deal in the search space. Do y'all do any uh, social ads, video content, or is that kind of outside?
Paid social is definitely on our product launch, product roadmap. I will say this: organic social, for the most part, I understand my audience deeply. For the most part, they don't have the commitment to do organic social. You know, video production, quality, the hooks, the consistency to do that day in and day out. So that's why we're looking at it more from a paid social perspective. Like, what can I do as a third party vendor to put them in the best chance to succeed? I can
Mhm.
definitely get them success if I do that. If I help them with their organic and they're just not, they don't have the charisma, the consistency, and it's the efforts just isn't there, it's going to be hard to get them to succeed.
Got it. Got it. And, obviously the uh, big shiny object in the marketplace right now is or are LLMs. How do you see LLMs impacting SEO's importance in customers' lives?
LLMs, to find that acronym, it's not coming up.
Large language models,
You
ChatGPT,
got it, got it.
Claude.
Yeah, I think that they're look, trust me, right? Being an SEO agency, we look at this kind of stuff, and I know that OpenAI just brought out a search-based AI search engine. Ahrefs has been talking about, another search engine. The reality is Google still owns 77% of the search space, and rich snippets have existed. So zero-click scenarios have existed for a long time. They have. I mean, rich snippets have been around. Now you got the AI overviews, so it's just more zero-click scenarios. So it basically just forces you to change your strategies, and because while the top of the funnel questions, those evergreen questions are going to be taken care of with ChatGPT, the bottom of the funnel questions that lend itself to optionality, there still has to be choice, there still has to be a marketplace. So it just changes your tactics. In the past, we used to focus more on top of funnel content and sharing a lot of traffic on the front end, but now it's like more we're focusing on the bottom of the funnel. Same thing for the social, right? You could build a big community and audience through organic social, or you can just focus right at the bottom, do some paid social to your target demo or geo. So that's what we're doing. I think that there's still a risk, but overall, I think in the next few years, I think there isn't like going to be an extensive change to how search works.
Mhm.
Just my opinion.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. Great. So we're coming towards the end of our time together. This has been awesome, Chris. Always great to meet a fellow marketer, especially when their name is Chris. So the final question of the interview is open-ended. You can take it in any direction that you like. And the question is, what are you working towards?
Good question. I just continuing to expand our dominance in the legal vertical. That's what I'm working towards. I've got my hands in a lot of different things, and it's just always working to dominate more legal, that whole extensive ecosystem.
Nice. Do you know what market share you have now and what you'd like to have?
Oh, it's super low. Let's just say there's 50,000 personal injury law firms in the United States. There's 450,000 law firms. Let's just say 50,000 PI. We work with about 100, right?
Mhm.
And we're at a 1.7 million MRR right now. Um, so there's this massive, massive opportunity. We haven't even touched a fraction of it.
Mhm. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we will look forward to following your journey there. It sounds like you are well on the path. So where can our audience find out more about you, Chris?
Yeah, if you're an attorney listening, if you're interested in digital marketing, you can go to rankings.io. If you want to connect with me personally, you can go to LinkedIn, just search for Chris Dreyer, and Dreyer spelled Dreyer. And if you just want to shoot me an email, you heard this podcast, you got a question, you want to be really direct, just email me at chris@rankings.io.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome. Bonus question because I forgot to ask it. To the extent that you are comfortable answering, do you currently have a financial advisor? Why not?
Uh, Longer winded question. So um, I think most financial advisors that don't operate in a fiduciary capacity are taking a percentage where they're doing just the S&P 500 international and bond strategy that is going to work for 99% of people. Having said that, I don't have a single stock. I do real estate primarily. And so, that's a whole different ball game that most don't play in.
Mhm. Got it. Would you ever consider working with a financial advisor?
I would consider it, but they would have to have more net worth than me, and so far that hasn't happened.
Got it. What's the ballpark there, if you don't mind me asking?
Uh, 50 plus.
Got it.
So
Got it. Awesome. Awesome. Chris, well, this was great, man. We'll be sure to link to all your websites and your book, and this was awesome, man. You were a wealth of knowledge. Wish we had 3 hours to talk.
yeah, man, really appreciate it. Open book. So anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And really enjoyed it. Thanks, Chris, for having me.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And to all our listeners out there, thanks so much for tuning in, and keep on growing out there, everybody. See ya.